I'm very happy to be here preaching tonight, and I'm going to read a little bit of the Bible together before I start. From the book of Ephesians. So let's read nice and loud, just 6 verses. As a prisoner for the Lord, we start again, shall we? Right,
Okay.
1, 2, 3. As a prisoner for the Lord, then, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. Be completely humble and gentle, be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. There is one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope when you were called. One Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. Father, I want to pray and just ask that tonight you would help me to preach what you've put on my heart, and I pray that you will help each and every one of us to not just hear my words, but to really hear your Holy Spirit speaking to us. Lord, we come here regularly, but we always need you, and just ask for your help tonight, in Jesus' name. Amen. So tomorrow's a public holiday. What's the public holiday? Waitangi Day. There it is. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen anyone in New Zealand celebrating Waitangi Day? On the streets, or, have you seen them kind of waving the flag? Have you seen fireworks? You don't see people out on the street, Kiwis, you don't? The Americans, they do. They have parades, and they on the 4th of July, isn't it? Chinese do on the 1st of October. Our Aussie cousins, not so much these days, but in the past, Australia Day was a very happy day in Australia. But here in New Zealand, it is often. These are the images that we see on the TV. And actually in New Zealand, a lot of people are a bit sick of Waitangi Day. Because Waitangi Day stirs up a lot of anger and outrage and protest. And why is that? Why is Waitangi Day like that? Well, Waitangi Day brings up some very difficult issues. Issues like justice, rights, identity, immigration, land, and who belongs here. So tonight I thought I would like to share with you some thoughts about these things, and not just my thoughts, but some of the things that the Bible has to say about these things, because actually the Bible has quite a lot to say about such issues and has quite a lot of principles. And so the topic of my talk tonight is a place to stand. Place to stand, to run away. The Bible doesn't use the word immigrant or immigration, but the Bible does talk a lot about people who move from this country to that country. And there are basically 2 words that are used to describe such people. People who've left their home and gone to live in another country. The 2 words are gur, and nokri. These are Hebrew words. They are translated into the English Bible by the words sojourners, or strangers, or foreigners, or aliens. Not the E.T. kind of alien, but alien as in the sense of a foreign person. In Chinese, there are 2 words that are basically translated. One is Wairen, and one is Waitangi. When you read the Bible, it's not really clear which one of these Hebrew words is being used, but they're both used. One, gur is used about 92 times, and nokri is about 47 times. Gur is a more positive word, and nokri is a more or a less positive word. So Abraham, he described himself as a gur. Okay, so Abraham was born in, where was Abraham born? Where did he live when he was young? Where is Ur? Ur of the Chaldees. Where are the Chaldees? Babylon. Where's Babylon? What country today? Iraq. Okay, so he was born, he grew up in Iraq, and then if you know the story, God called him, he leaves his home, leaves his family, and he moves to the land of Canaan, which is what we call Israel today. He lives there for many years. He puts down his roots, he builds a business, a farm, and then finally his wife, Sarah, she dies. And so he goes to the local inhabitants of the land of Canaan, and he says to them, he says, I am a foreigner, I am a gur, and a stranger among you. Sell me some property for a burial site where I can bury my dead. The Hittites, who were the people who were living there, replied to Abraham, Sir, listen to us. You are a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of our tombs. None of us will refuse you his tomb for burying your dead. So Abraham described himself as a gur. And then look what happened next. Abraham rose and he bowed down before the people of the land, the Hittites. In Chinese it was called Na Ti Tu, the people of the land. But he was a foreigner. Now he lived there for many years, but he respected them, and they allowed him to buy land, and he respected them as people of the land. So this word gur, it refers to people who've come to live in a land and to make it their home, and to put down their roots and to be a part of this new land. And the attitude that a gur would have is a similar attitude that Ruth had. If you know the story of Ruth, and the way she related to her mother-in-law, Naomi, and Ruth replied to her mother-in-law, don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. So that sort of attitude is the attitude that the Gur have to their new land. Because they've made it their new home, and because of that, they were treated like a citizen. So what God told the people of Israel, he told them that they were to treat these foreigners as native born. He says in Leviticus, the foreigner, the Gur residing among you, must be treated as your native born. Love them. Love them as yourself. For you were foreigners in Egypt. I am the Lord your God. Love them as yourself. Treat them as your native born. And if you read the Old Testament, God gave many commands like this. One of them, he said, the laws and regulations will apply both to you and to the Gur who is residing among you. They were treated with all the rights and privileges of a citizen. Now the other group, the Nokri, they didn't have such a high status in the land. Abraham never referred to himself as a Nokri. Jacob never referred to himself like that. Joseph never referred to himself like that. And if you read the laws in the Old Testament, there's quite a distinction between these two groups of people. It's a very, very clear distinction. The citizens were treated like the girl was treated like a citizen. At one point he said, you can charge, don't charge your fellow Israelite in interest, but you can charge the Nokri, you can charge them interest. And so there's quite a lot of laws in the Old Testament where these two groups are quite clearly differentiated. The Bible does not explicitly say why, but it is probable that the Nokri, these people, were kind of temporary residents. They had come for their own purposes, and they were probably at one point going to go home. A little bit like maybe people on a student visa. Right? People on a student visa. They come here, they study, but they have their own home, their own place. Or people on a work visa. They might stay for a while, but then they will go home. They will go home. Now you maybe think, well, that's very interesting, Pastor, but what's that got to do with us? Good question. Good question. I have here my New Zealand passport. I was given one of these because I was born in New Zealand. How many of you have a New Zealand passport? Yeah. Some of you are immigrants, but you received a New Zealand passport. Some of you are PR, permanent resident, so you may not have a passport, you may not be a citizen, but you basically have all the rights of a citizen. How many of you are just PR? All the Malaysians are PR. They don't want to give up their Malaysian citizenship. They can only have one. My passport has my name in it. Your passport has your name in it. Apart from that, is there any difference between your New Zealand passport and my New Zealand passport? Any difference? The face is different. Apart from the name, the address, the age, the face. Any difference? Okay. There is no difference, alright? There is no difference. Your New Zealand passport is exactly the same as my New Zealand passport. I who was born here, and others of you who were born here, it's exactly the same as those of you who are immigrants to this country. Now this one here is my wife's Hong Kong ID card. So if you live in Hong Kong, everyone has an ID card. And when I lived there, I had an ID card as well. I couldn't find it, I lost it. It's very sad. But let me ask you a question. Is there any difference between my wife's ID card and my ID card? Any difference? Yes, there is. What is the difference? Yeah, but written on the card, what's different? Right?
She's better looking.
She's better looking, yes, that's true, William. Thank you for that insightful comment. On my wife's ID card, there are 3 little stars. 3 stars. On my ID card, there's no 3 stars.
She's
no 3 stars. I can live in Hong Kong all my life, and I will never get 3 stars on my ID card because I am not Chinese. I'm not Chinese. She gets it because she's Chinese. I don't get it. So I can live there permanently, I can live there my whole life, but I'll never get my 3 stars. Which seems a little bit unfair, isn't it? You know, because you come here and you get one of these, which is exactly the same as my one. How come you get all the rights and privileges of New Zealand citizenship as an immigrant, as a good? How does that happen? Well, it's partly because of the laws of New Zealand, but it is also partly because of the Treaty of Waitangi. That's why. The Treaty of Waitangi. The local Maori tribe here is called, anyone know what the local tribe is called? Waitangi. And previously the leader of Waitangi was a man called Mark Solomon. And he said, the treaty affirms the right of us all to be here. So Maori people have the right to be here because they've been here a long time. And we who have come more recently, we have the right to stay here as well because of the Treaty of Waitangi. Now the Treaty of Waitangi was signed in 1840, and it was signed between 2 peoples, the Maori people and the non-Maori people. And the agreement basically was that these 2 people would become one. That was the basic intention of this treaty, that the 2 people would become one. That they would live in respectful and peaceful coexistence. The Maori who had been here for a long time and all those who would come in the future. It's interesting that this idea of the 2 becoming one is the similar idea in Ephesians, in the Bible, Ephesians chapter 2. It describes 2 people becoming one because of a covenant. Now the two people are not Maori and non-Maori. The two peoples are Jews and non-Jews, or Gentiles. And the idea is that because of a covenant or a treaty, they have now become one people through Jesus Christ. He himself, Jesus, is our peace, who has made the two groups one and has destroyed the barrier, the dividing wall of hostility. His purpose was to create in himself one new humanity out of the two, thus making peace, and in one body to reconcile both of them to God through the cross. So the new covenant, the New Testament, the new treaty enables the two to become one and join together in peace. So it's somewhat similar to what happened in Waitangi in 1840. Does anyone know who wrote the Treaty of Waitangi? Who wrote it? It was Christians in England who wrote it. Because the Christians, the evangelical Christians in England, knew that the British were bad, all right? And they had gone all over the world and they had done some very bad things. And so the last place on earth to kind of be discovered was way down in the South Pacific, this little country called New Zealand. It was inhabited by these native people. And the Christians said, we need to do better. We need to try better to have a better relationship. And so they wrote a treaty. They wrote an agreement or a covenant. The missionaries translated it. They didn't do a really perfect job of translation. There was some misunderstandings. But it was the missionaries who encouraged the Maoris to sign, because the missionaries cared about the Maori people and they wanted the best for them. And so this Treaty of Waitangi is actually quite a spiritual document. It's quite spiritual. It was signed by both sides, and it was a covenant or a treaty or a testament to bring them together. If you know the history, the sad thing is that in the following years, the British broke the treaty in some ways, stole land, cheated the Maori people. And so today, a lot of Maori people still feel hurt by this. They still feel hurt all these years later, feel that they were mistreated. And so every Waitangi Day, what happens is all this hurt gets stirred up. And you will see banners that say, honour the treaty. Honour the treaty. You broke it, you should honour it. And we should be very grateful that we live in a country that is trying to honour the treaty. About 40 years ago, a tribunal was set up, a court. It's called the Waitangi Tribunal. Have you ever heard of this? And so what happens is that the Maori tribes who have a grievance, who have an unhappy thing, they can come to court, they bring their lawyers, they all sit there and they say, this happened 100 years ago, this happened, and it was not right, and we need to fix it. And so the court is trying to fix these issues. So the local iwi, the local tribe, is called Ngāi There's about 50,000 members in the South Island of this tribe. And in 1998, they reached a settlement in the Waitangi Tribunal. And so the government, first of all, the government apologised. It's sorry. Second thing that happened was the government gave them $170 million to pay back. And it's very interesting, this tribe has taken that money and they have invested it wisely and they have done really well. They were also given land, a lot of land around Christchurch. So part of that land was Wigram. Anybody live in Wigram? Okay, so you bought your house from a builder who bought it from Waitangi. So the government gave them Wigram and they developed Wigram, the Waitangi tribe. Very clever. And they were also given a lot of buildings, and they're also given the right of first refusal, which means that any government property, if the government wants to sell anything in the South Island, First they come to Ngāi Tahu and say, do you want to buy it? Do you want to buy it? And they get first rights on every piece of land. And Mark Solomon, he said the grievance period is over. Right? It's finished. And we wish that every Maori tribe in New Zealand would say this. But we're not there yet. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. So the treaty affirms the right of us all to be here. And we have been given what the Maori call tūranga waiwai, okay, a place to stand. Tūranga means standing place. You know the library in the city? It's called tūranga, a standing place. Waiwai are your feet. These are your waiwai. So we have a place where we can stand. We have a place, a safe place, a place of physical, mental, and spiritual security, a place in this world, a place we can call home. So New Zealand is our, if you're a Kiwi, if you've got one of these, or if you're a PR, you're a Kiwi, and we have a place here in New Zealand for our tūranga waiwai. And Christchurch is our tūranga waiwai. And Mosaic is our tūranga waiwai. There are two sides. I didn't bring my coin. You got a coin there? For an illustration. I left my coin at home. Here we go. Thank you, Vicky. A coin has two sides, right? Give it back. A coin has two sides, right? And tūranga waiwai also has two sides. One side are our privileges, and one side is our responsibilities. What are the privileges of having a tūranga waiwai? I'll tell you. If you get really sick, you can go to the hospital and they will fix you for free. For free. Doesn't matter, it costs 10,000 or 100,000 or 500,000, they will fix you for free. If you have an accident, ACC will look after you. You know that? You don't have to sue anyone. You don't have to go around suing people. The ACC will look after you. If you get poor and you don't have any food or you don't have a home, the New Zealand taxpayer will pay for your food and they will pay for your house. And if you've been here for 10 years and you're over 65, every 2 weeks money comes into your bank. It's a miracle. It's really a miracle, you know. If you've been here 10 years and you're over 65, and you open up your bank account and you go, oh, there's money in my bank. And then 2 weeks later, what? There's more money again. And then 2 weeks later, what? Again. Now some of you are thinking, well, that's not a big deal, Pastor Jack, but if you're over 65, it is a big deal. It's very precious. The government will give you money. You can live freely, you can speak freely, you can assemble religiously in a religious context freely, you can go wherever you like. New Zealand passport is one of the best passports in the world. You can go, after COVID, you can go many, many places. And New Zealand is truly one of the best countries in the world. Yeah? It is. So that is the blessing, that is the privileges of living in New Zealand. What about the other side? What about the responsibilities? You know, isn't New Zealand a beautiful place? Really. We live down here. That's where we live. Maybe the only bad thing about New Zealand is this earthquake fault line that runs up there. There it is, you can see it. It branches off there, it goes up here too. There's earthquake plates. Pretty scary. It's pretty scary. It's a beautiful country. One of the responsibilities that you and I have is the tangata Treaty. We are called the tangata, the people of the treaty, Treaty. Maoris didn't know, they didn't have a word for treaty, so they just called it Treaty. It's called transliteration. They just turned it into a Maori word. So we are what are called tangata Treaty. And one of our responsibilities is to respect those who have been here before us, the tangata whenua, the people of the land. I lived in Australia for 4 years. I studied theology in Australia, and I love Australia. And I respect the Australian people. We need to respect the Maori people in this country. You know, Abraham said he bowed down to the people of the land, and we need to respect them as well. We need to love this country, love this place. I loved Australia. When I lived in Australia, I just loved Australia. I didn't really love the flies and the mosquitoes and the cockroaches and the ants and the jellyfish and the sharks and the crocodiles and all the things that will eat you and kill you. But everything else in Australia was just wonderful. I loved Australia. I loved the people of Australia. I still love Australia. I'd be happy to go and live in Australia. And I lived in Hong Kong for 6 years. And I loved Hong Kong. I still love Hong Kong. I love the people of Hong Kong. I really want the best for the people of Hong Kong. Do you love New Zealand?
Yes.
Do you love this country?
Yes. I love this country.
Do you love the people of this country? You want the best for this country? To obey the law, we should obey the laws. We should be a good citizen. It's our responsibility to be a good citizen, to follow the laws of this country, to pay our taxes. No one hates paying tax more than me. I hate paying tax. But I pay my tax. And we ought to pay our taxes. We ought to be honest. When you go to pick up power, when you go and find some power, and it says only take 10, don't take 11, don't take 12, don't take 52, take 10. That's the law. Leave some for someone else. And if it says 125 millimeters, oh, it's only 90, more or less, that'll do. No one will know, it's only 90, but it's nearly 125. No, it's not. It's not 125 at all. It's 90. It's a big difference. Don't take the little ones. You obey the law. You know? We should be law-abiding citizens. And finally, give back. Some immigrants, they get a very bad name because they take, and they don't give back. And that's not right. We need to give back to this society. We need to give back to New Zealand. We need to volunteer. We need to help. We need to be good neighbours. You know, good neighbours. Not just to ones like us, but good neighbours to everybody. Even if they don't look like you, and even if they don't speak your language. Be a good neighbour. Be kind to people. Give back to our society. Don't be one of those immigrants that just take all the time. Just give back. I'm really happy that we changed our name. I think it really sends a really good message. I think that what we're saying is we are part of this community. You know, we've come here, and we put down our roots, and we love this place. We are good. We are girls. We're not knockers. We're girls. And this is our home. We are Kiwis. And we're part of this community. And there's a passage in the Old Testament where God was talking to the people of Israel who were living in Babylon. And they had been taken to Babylon. They weren't really happy about it. But God said to them, don't sit there in Babylon and cry and feel homesick and say, oh, I miss the food back home and I miss everything back home. He said, don't be like that. He said, build houses and settle down and plant gardens and eat what they produce. And marry and have sons and daughters and find wives for your sons and give your daughters in marriage so that they too may have sons and daughters. Increase in number there. Do not decrease. Also, seek the peace and the prosperity of the city to which I have carried you into exile. Pray to the Lord for it. Pray to the Lord, because if it prospers, you too will prosper. This should be our attitude here in this place that we have made our home.